Hi, David Odell here at the Mason Union Hall training facility in Las Vegas, learning about concrete coatings and techniques from Paul with Smith Paints in collaboration with Concrete Accessories. Shout out to Nick for putting this together.
Well, what we're going to go over is a variety of different floor coatings in here. So we're going to do a fast cure final chip system, which is water-based. So the advantage of it is that it can do quick turnaround without extensive amounts of odor, and you're not giving up on the durability of the product. So you can do the first application, get the second one down, and then walk out the door and still have a one-day floor that doesn't give up on any performance. Some of the other coatings will be a metallic floor. We're going to do something that's more of a back of the house or like an automotive service area floor for slip resistance. What we call a thin mill floor, which would be like aircraft hangars, or just a smooth surface where you're not going to get a lot of abuse on the floor. Beyond that, we're also going to be doing some different stains outside later, but for the most part, that's what we're going to be going through are different epoxies, urethanes, and polyaspartics. Now you're going to mix this for about 3 minutes. You want a low speed drill for less than 450 RPM. And you don't want to paddle because there's a bunch of different style mixing paddles. You don't want a paddle that whips a lot of air into it because then it'll kind of foam up. So what Michael's doing here is you're going to pour a ribbon out on the floor and then use a notch squeegee. This one's a 8 to 12 mil squeegee. That's going to meter how thick you're applying it so you get an even film over the whole surface. We're going to back roll it with a 3/8 snap paint roller after it's placed. And then once it kind of relaxes and you don't see the little notches, then you broadcast and pull the chip. So push, pull, doesn't really matter. What the advantage of it is to give you the workability in a warmer environment, but also have quick turnover so you're not having to wait till the next day to come back and do another layer. So you can use this as strictly just for chip floors, but we're going to broadcast directly into it, and within a few hours you're scraping this. Okay, so once you get this on a normal floor, you're going to be walking in cleats in this. Start from the back side, work your way around. Broadcast to rejection for a full broadcast. You want to make sure you're throwing it in the air. Try not to get you guys with the chip, but throw it up so it cascades down. If you throw like this, you're going to put lines in the floor. So you want to make sure it goes up in the air and falls to it so you don't get uneven placement of the chip or create a little ripple with the liquid when it hits it. Then once this dries in about 2 to 3 hours, you should be able to scrape this off, vacuum it, and we're ready for the next layer. Now this is Polyseal. This is the coat that goes over top of the chip to lock it down. This is a ready to use, just shake it up and pour it out. This is also a concrete sealer, but we found that this works very well, especially in this environment, to kind of help settle everything down, soften the chip a little bit so it lays down instead of having sharp edges, and then makes your top coat go a lot farther. So this one you can just literally just pour out. We'll dip and roll it out of a paint tray. You can spray it if you want to. This dries pretty quick. You're going to find in the summer here it's going to be somewhere around 45 minutes before you're ready for your next coat.
How many coats of that do you apply?
This one, just one. You can also use this for repairs. Like sometimes you'll get some areas, maybe there's a divot or something in the floor where the chip will just settle down into that. You can come back in, brush a little on that spot, sprinkle the chip on it, wait 15 minutes or so, and then seal the whole thing with the Polyseal and keep going instead of having to wait longer for like other materials. It would take you hours to be able to do that. Again, you pour a ribbon. It's a large area. A squeegee is a good idea because it helps, one, meter the amount of material, but it also evens it out. Now, epoxies are going to start to set up in the bucket over time if you let them sit there and cook. It's better to get it out on the floor, place it and roll it. You'll get more working time that way. The epoxies cure with heat, so if you leave them in mass, they'll get hotter faster. That'll shorten your pot life. So the faster you get it placed out on the floor and out of that bucket, the better. This is about a 30 mesh blend. So typically on a floor for something like this, you're going to use like a 30, really not any finer than a 60 mesh because you kind of lose the traction at that point. But if you go below 20, it gets extremely aggressive to the point where you really can't clean the floor. Mixing a low odor polyaspartic. So this is a high solids, 86% solids, 2-component, 2 parts A, 1 part B for part mixing. The nice thing with a polyaspartic like this is that you can go a little thicker than you can with a urethane, and you're going to get a higher shine than you would with a water-based polyurethane. So we're going to put it over top of just the bare surface here, and then also over the sand, just so you can see the difference from one finish to the other. But this can be pigmented too if you wanted a solid color, although it is possible to do a clear. Now this specific product can be used both as a primer, as a body coat. You can actually mix some metallics with it if you wanted something for better UV stability, or if you're doing like a white kind of base, that would be more appropriate than an epoxy that's going to amber. You can use this as a grout coat over flake or quartz. It's kind of a versatile one, a little thicker consistency. Most polyaspartics have a tendency to either be very watery, kind of solvent-based materials. This has more like an epoxy kind of consistency to it. It behaves like an epoxy when you're applying it, and it'll develop a sheen similar to the gloss of like this. To walk on, this one's slower than most. It's going to be about 6 to 8 hours, depending on how thick you apply it. The thicker you apply it, the longer it's going to take to set up. That's just inherent of polyaspartics in general. Parking a car on it's going to be about 24 hours. You do have a recoat window with it at 24, and then after 24 you'd have to sand it. Straight lines back and forth, that shows up in it, because really what you're dealing with here is not a fully pigmented system. You're dealing with the same type of pearlescent pigment that goes in an automotive paint. So what happens is when you put it out and it starts to settle, the clear comes up and the pigment falls to the bottom, and you create a topography under the clear. So whatever you do, if you make straight lines, your pattern will become straight lines as that pigment falls.
Nice demos. Thanks for letting me watch.
Did you get that? Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll have some pizza.
Hey Nick, go catch you later, man.
All right.
Thanks
outta
for
here.
inviting me.
Hey, of course. Thank you
Yeah,
for
it was
coming,
fun.
and we'll catch you next time.
Yep, have a
Right
good
on.
one.
Yes, sir.